So here's my review on The Hobbit and the Unexpected Journey. Why am I doing these reviews now? I actually have never watched any Lord of the Rings or Hobbit anything. And a lot of my friends have watched it and talked about it over the years. And I was kind of like pretending that I've seen them, but I never did. And I've only seen like memes and maybe a couple clips here and there, but I've never really watched them in full. So I've decided this week, which is why I haven't been very active on here because I've been watching them, is I finished the Hobbit trilogy and I just finished the first Lord of the Rings. But I've been watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the extended edition for all three. So, to put it in perspective, like the last one is like 4 hours long. The next one I'm going to be watching, which is the second Lord of the Rings, can't remember the name of it. I'm sure I'm going to remember it when I do the review of it. But that's almost close to 4 hours long, but it's like 3 hours and some. So here are my thoughts on The Hobbit and the Unexpected Journey. To me, first of all, the CGI, you can tell they were probably running out of money. And you can tell the beginning of this film was, like Gandalf, you can tell, some of the scenes were shot separately. And, really the beginning when him and Baggins meet for the first time. And, you can tell that Gandalf his parts were shot separately from Gandalf. They do that sometimes with actors if they can't be there at the same time with the other actor in that scene, so they shoot them separately and they kind of do it in a very film magic way. But overall, this movie has the right amount of action and adventure. Really, the adventure, I can't emphasize on the adventure part. The trilogy as a whole got me the feel of an adventure, but this together was just an amazing adventure. Had a right good amount of humor. I really loved the humor in this. I feel like it's the only movie really I feel like it has the most humor, if you will. And I don't know, just the whole dwarf angle just felt like it was just we're following this family of misfits, misfits that are a family trying to reclaim their home and go off on this journey. And also we get the journey of the Hobbit, Baggins becoming not just a book reader nerd like us, but becoming more of a warrior at the same time, but having an understanding of that. I do feel like Gollum and Baggins' third scene would dragged on a little bit too much, but I understand it was important for the Lord of the Rings story. So yeah, I give it a rating of 8.2. I love the score. Here's my review of The Hobbit and the Desolation of Smaug. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but just rock with me here. Me personally, I feel like Baggins in this movie in particular, this is probably my favorite one out of the Hobbit trilogy, because I feel like Baggins gets the most forefront of the movie. I feel like he got to really shine in this movie. I feel like with the first one, yes, he shined a little bit, but it was kind of even out with all the other characters like Thorin and Gandalf and the dwarfs and all of that stuff. But me personally, I feel like the Hobbit, Baggins himself, I feel like he got really his shine in this film. And the third one, we'll wait for that review. Gandalf was sidelined a little bit, but I understand his story and what he had to do that was setting up some things later down the line in the Lord of the Rings. So his story had served a purpose to why where he was is where he was and why he was. And Sauron and all that other stuff is setting up the other they set it up in the first one, but with all the other ring bears, if you will, or the wizards, if you will. But I think the dragon, for the most part, was so menacing. As in, I felt like they could have easily made him a typical evil dragon that's been told many times in cinema history, but this time they kind of really made him actually menacing in a way to where it wasn't overdoing it. It was just the right amount of evil dragon, if you will, and kind of portraying even the dragon to eventually in the third one with Thorin kind of getting that dragon disease sickness, if you will, of they even said in the movie where even the dragon was kind of defeated because, you know, he hasn't been doing a lot of what he used to do, so he kind of got lazy, and, you know, and rusty to it, the ways of doing things, until we got to the city, and then that whole ordeal. The humor dialed down a little bit in this film, really for the rest of the trilogy, but for me personally, I feel like that's not a big issue. I'm fine with it either way. I loved it both ways, but, you know, overall, the action and the adventure, especially the adventure was really emphasized in this film in particular. And, you know, and the emotions in this film really pack a punch, and how they leave you in a cliffhanger. Even I feel like they could have maybe left the beginning of the third film and the second one, but hey, I understand why they did it. I didn't get to say it as much in the last review, but I really love the score in this whole trilogy altogether. My score for this is 8.5 out of 10. So here's my review on The Hobbit and the Battle of the Five Armings. I was saying in the last review that, you know, in the second film, I feel like Baggins got the shine in this one, and I feel like with this one, Baggins had its moments, but overall, I feel like Baggins was sidelined a lot in this movie. It was more of like a Thoron's film than it was The Hobbit. It should have been just the not Lord of the Rings, but those titles are specific. Like in the Lord of the Rings, like Forgo, like, you know, from so far what I've watched, you know, he's kind of the main character. Yes, there's other characters, but he is the main. But I feel like with Baggins, I feel like he wasn't the most important character. Like, I feel like he wasn't presented as the main protagonist in this film, or any, well, except for the second one, but the first and third, I feel like he wasn't presented as that. He definitely kind of became the warrior, kind of bringing it full circle to what Gandalf said to Baggins before he went off on his journey in the first film, how this journey will change you, which it did for the most part, but I felt like it didn't, I don't know, it definitely served his character to what later becomes of him, but overall though, I just felt like, I don't know, I felt like, you know, with The Hobbit, I'm not disappointed, I love this trilogy, but I just feel like Baggins was kind of not wasted, but not wasted for sure, not saying that, but I just feel like they could have done more with him in those films, because it literally is the title of these films, The Hobbit. But I do like how they didn't sugarcoat it, like, you know, Thoron getting the dragon disease and showing what happens when a man becomes full with power and gold, and how it can change a man. But, you know, I love how he ultimately decided not to. I'm sure there's books reading to this, but I love how it kind of, you know, there was at least that storyline in the movie. I feel like for the most part, this movie was just a third act film, which I don't like when films do that, when they take the third film and treat it as the third act instead of actually a film altogether. And I feel like Thoron was that storyline, that driving line in the movie, because for the most part it was kind of bombarded with action, which I understand why it was for what it was. It's understandable for story reasons, but at the same time I feel like they kind of lost the story in a way with a lot of the action, and it took up the movie a lot. Ultimately, I love how it was delivered and executed. The score was amazing. The adventure, this movie left me feeling full of adventure, and like I was part of that journey, even though I watched it back to back. Love this movie, love this trilogy. I have to give it a rating of 8.3 out of 10.